Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is the 18th of July 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin with Pakistan demanding Afghanistan for a robust action against the Bannu criminals, and this has been done as through a Foreign Office statement. Now, the Foreign Office statement also talks about the interim Afghan government that was urged to fully investigate and take immediate, robust and effective action against the perpetrators of the Bannu attack and prevent the recurrence of such attacks against Pakistan using the territory of Afghanistan. Now, this is not the first time that Pakistan has been asking, pressurizing, requesting Afghanistan, the interim Afghan government, to do the needful to prevent the onslaught of such terrorist outfits from the Afghan territories into Pakistani territories, specifically with reference to Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan and other such terrorist outfits that are working in allegiance with these outfits. There is a new UN monitoring report also that talks about the TTP being one of the largest terror organizations in the region. This and more is going to be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns extremism in India and how this has been taking shape since the last few decades and only taken a very concrete direction as far as the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Dalits or the Christians in India is concerned since the Narendra Modi government came into power in 2014. We are in 2024 and to date we still hear of hooliganism, vandalism and all activities that point towards marginalization of the minorities in India, whether it be through the different incidents as we have seen lately on the Raza Jama Masjid in Maharashtra's Kolhapur district, where of course people got together and started to pelt the mosque and desecrated the Holy Quran, where the police and others just looked as people who were not doing what they had to do or needed to do, what the responsibility was as far as safeguarding the interests of the minorities in India is concerned. But does the Modi government really understand the minorities or understand the responsibility that it has vis-a-vis the minorities in India? This is going to be our second story. Then we are going to talk about the cities that are going to get warmer by the year 2080. A web app that has been created by a professor at the University of Maryland in the US has predicted the future of the cities to be warmer, not only across the world but also in different countries in this region, including in Pakistan, and he has specified different cities, whether it be Karachi, Lahore, Multan or others, that will continue to get warmer. But of course, we've been highlighting the effects of climate change and what needs to be done, but will the world stand as one as far as mitigating the effects of climate change is concerned? This is a huge question. Then we are going to talk about Japanese scientists who have made a robot face smile with the help of living skin. They have devised a way to attach living skin tissue to robotic faces and make them smile in a breakthrough which a lot of people say is quite eerie, nevertheless holds out promise to applications in cosmetics and medicine. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, from the world of television in the West, the Emmy nominations have come up with the 2 or 3 major TV series that are being highlighted, whether it be Shogun, whether it be The Bear, or whether it be even others such as The Crown, The Morning Show, that are vying for the Emmys. Who will get the Emmys? Well, we'll know that in the month of September this year, but the nominations are out. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns Afghanistan, Pakistan and Pakistan's demand again from Afghanistan to stop the infiltration of the terrorist outfits and militant outfits from the Afghan soil into Pakistan. Now, the latest this statement that has come is from the Foreign Office that talks on and requests the Afghan interim government to urge and fully investigate and take immediate, robust and effective action against the perpetrators of the Bannu attack and prevent the recurrence of such attacks against Pakistan using the territory of Afghanistan. It also said that Pakistan had reiterated its serious concerns over the presence of terror outfits inside of Afghanistan that continue to threaten Pakistan's security. Such incidents, it said, also go against the spirit of bilateral relations between the two brotherly countries. Now, a day ago also, we all know that there was an attempt by 10 terrorists to enter Bannu cantonment in the early hours of Monday. That was effectively thwarted by the security forces personnel, which of course forced the terrorists to ram an explosive laden vehicle into the perimeter wall of the cantonment. Then of course the statement attributed this heinous act to the Hafiz Gul Bahadur group, which operates from Afghanistan. Well, this is just one of the many incidents that have been happening since 2022, since the Afghan interim government came into power. Brigadier Waqar Hassan Khan, senior analyst, joins us online. Brigadier Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. What has happened in Bannu cantonment, what has happened in Dera Ismail Khan a day before, are just examples of what has been happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan since 2022, and the major blame is on the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and its affiliates. Pakistan has demanded immediate, robust and effective action to be taken by the Afghan interim government, but will Afghanistan comply?
Yeah, I think this is a very complicated situation. And Afghan Taliban, it's now very clear. There are international reports by UN, which have been presented to the UN Security Council, and then of course are basically reports which are now coming out, as leaks. For instance, Sarah Adam leak is very important, where she's claimed she's a CIA senior operator, and she's claimed that now even the US is actually funding Taliban to a tune of $87 million a week. And the cigar report, which came just, I think, last month, highlights that $17 billion have been funded by US to the Taliban. So I don't know, you combine it with what was left, $7 billion plus of weapon and equipment and small arms in Afghanistan, then you can connect the dots that what is happening. India is now reportedly funding $10 million a month to Taliban government for security and all that. I don't know, because they were arch enemies when Ashraf Ghani was there. So all told, now it's becoming, I would say, an international terrorist hub, and entire Central Asia, Russia, Pakistan, Iran will be affected. Pakistan is the main target, and I feel that because of two major undertakings, one was CPEC-2, the other is Pakistan, sending a nod on a north-south corridor offered by Russia, probably is going to pick up. So these are some of the reasons international. And now you come to the internal Afghan politics, where basically they are criminal gangs. It's a criminal enterprise. They would like to continue with smuggling and narcotics business and weapons smuggling. So all told, it's a very complicated situation.
But Brigadier Sahab, one of the main culpables as far as the Bannu incident is the Hafiz Gul Bahadur group. Now, this is not the first time that we have heard of this group. It has been behind other heinous incidents in Pakistan as well. And this is also what is outlined in the statement that has come out from the Foreign Office this time. The Foreign Office also says that the interim Afghan government should fully investigate and take immediate, robust and effective action against these perpetrators that are using the territory of Afghanistan. What does this group, the Hafiz Gul Bahadur group, or other groups that are involved in it, or the interim Afghanistan government stand to gain from such nefarious, heinous activities in Pakistan?
One, I think we should now be looking at Afghan setup at present as a monolith. Maybe they have offshoots like Gul Bahadur group, then you have TTP, then you have some of the below sub-nexus terrorist groups, and all have linked. And even if you combine, with it or join, Daesh attack in Russia, Moscow's theater in a concert. So this was again originating from basically Kabul. So it means it's an international hub, and especially if you look at most of the attacks, I think 90% has been against Pakistan. So although there may be different entities with slightly different ideologies, but by and large, the aim and objective is to target Pakistan. And I think now we are.
Why target Pakistan? Pakistan has been there for, I mean, this is a question that we have discussed in the past as well, but I fail to understand why Afghanistan is doing or facilitating such groups that are creating havoc in Pakistan when Pakistan has always been there for Afghanistan. This is a very basic, very question for even a layman that a layman would answer, but I fail to understand why what is happening is actually happening.
Yeah, I think I've given you some reason, but I think there are three major factors. One is, apparently when the US left, but there was a question marks on why they left, $7 billion worth of small arms. So was it deliberate? I think they needs to be investigated. And now the reports coming, this is a cigar report by the, Special Inspector General for Afghanistan. And then there are leaks. Then there's an interview by Ahmad Masood. Ahmad Masood is son of Ahmad Shah Masood, very charismatic leader of Afghanistan, and he's also raising the same question that why are you funding a terrorist entity that you have been fighting? So I would say one is of course internal. They would like to use terrorism as a tool because if you look at the development and economy and all that, nothing is functioning. And Ahmad Masood actually claimed that there are 12 provinces now where the active resistance is going on. People are fed up. So it means that I would say, and I'll use this word, that Taliban too has become a hired gun now, honestly. If they take money from India, US, or maybe, even Iranians, it is reported by Sarah Adams that they also try to fund, basically to avoid attacks inside Afghanistan, inside Iran. So one is that. The other is two major reasons. Now, if you know that Pakistan went for CPEC 2, which was slowed down in 2018. And then is also North-South Corridor, which is basically a Eurasian initiative by Russia, which Pakistan, and probably Pakistan also looking at joining BRICS this year, unless Indian resist it. So it means that you're looking at Eurasian connectivity, who's basically not happy. So I think, so it means that in case Taliban can be used as a hire gun against the rest of the region, so same game which was being played by, the presence of the US forces is again being reinitiated. And unfortunately, the same Taliban that we supported diplomatically, morally, and also held their conferences here, and maybe help them to, come into power, because we thought that they will basically unite Afghanistan and we'll get, but just for dollars, I think tables have been turned. And we have to actually now look at it. That one is, of course, Azme Istehkam, 5 major pillars. One is, of course, intelligence-based operations have to contribute for you to fight them. You can't surrender. Number 2 is legal aspects, bringing changes in our lawfare and making it easier for the military to operate. Number 3 is, of course, ownership by the political leadership, whether federal or the provinces. It is very strange that something happens in D.I. Khan, which is the hometown of Maulana Fazl Rahman, as well as Chief Minister of KP. And somehow, if military goes, sacrifices, and imagine who was, assassinated or shaheed was women and children. And so what kind of Islam is that in case they are talking about it? So the ownership has to be of political leadership, civil administration, and then, of course, the capacity building of law enforcement agencies other than military. Military is quite potent, well-trained, but we need to do it for police, levies, and, frontier constabulary. And then, of course, a resolve by the nation. I think it was very clearly spelled out that military would give sacrifices, law enforcement would do it, but we can fight terrorists, but we cannot fight terrorism. It has to be fought by the entire nation and it is to be owned by a political leadership. So I think if we move on that, and then there are, different, I've already, sometime talked about it, that there are so many other tools that you can apply to convince Taliban that this is a lost cause, and if they are doing it on behalf of somebody just to earn dollars, it's not going to help the people of Afghanistan.
Is Afghanistan interim government pushing Pakistan to go for kinetic operations in its territory?
Maybe the greater design, maybe, because India and the hostile agencies who are added against Pakistan would actually want it. That there could be, some limited exchange, across the border, and then this border really becomes hot. Pakistan would definitely try to avoid it, but we have displayed that in case we can identify targets, we can do selective targeting, because then there's a always fear of or apprehension of collateral damage, and at times it is played also that you kill the terrorists, but then they'll play it that probably children and women will. So we'll be very, very careful with that. But I think within Pakistan it's very clear, it's a red line. And if you look at statements coming from Wali Masood, who is basically the TTP's head, he very clearly said that it has nothing to do with Gaza, it has nothing to do with Kashmiri Muslims, it's going to target Pakistan. So just imagine their mentality. And in case they feel that Pakistan is a pushover, it is not. Inshallah, Pakistan military will fight it out and we'll defeat it. The only thing is that the nation has to now understand it's a big challenge. And unfortunately, somehow the dollars and money has become more important than the relationship Taliban had with Pakistan.
But Brigadier Sahib, is also that the reason why the Afghan side does meet with the Pakistani side? Just giving an example of the Doha conference that was recently held, Zabiullah Mujahid, who was the representative of the Afghan side, met with the Pakistani side of the delegation as well, and seemed to be quite happy after the meeting and hope for developing positive relations with Pakistan. Is this a two-faced effort or diplomacy that the Afghan interim government is going forward with vis-a-vis Pakistan? And if so, what should also be the coordinated response of all the countries in the region, because the other countries have also elements present within the Afghan territories that could prove to be detrimental for them?
Yeah, I think it is a two-phase strategy. But on ground, Pakistan also I think probably follow the same route. That one, of course, you diplomatically engage, because definitely diplomatic channels you cannot shut. Because also then there is, a people-to-people relationship. 40 million Afghans are actually suffering. And if you divide, half of them are women, they are actually shut down in their houses. So it's already a catastrophe. There's the issue of hunger and all that. But in case the Taliban regime keeps getting dollars from our friends, and people are now raising questions that why you would be, like Ahmed Masood said, that how could you do it? And on one hand, you talk of women rights and human rights and democracy, and on the other side, you are basically funding them. So I think this diplomatic effort has to continue, because you can definitely, I think, with concert, and we have to follow a very aggressive foreign policy and diplomacy, because you have to now get the entire region involved, raise the issue that ultimately, Pakistan will inshallah take it, but it is going to spread. Chinese are also worried. There have been attacks on Chinese, interests in Pakistan, especially people working on CPEC projects like Dasu and later on in some other areas. So China is also concerned, because if they are going to become hired guns, so ultimately it's going to affect Chinese initiatives and strategic, let's say, projects in Pakistan, which is definitely not feasible. And China has a leverage. So that's why Iran has leverage, Russia, Pakistan, China. I think we can always put pressure diplomatically. But as far as fight against terrorists is concerned, it's going to continue. And Pakistan has to adopt multifarious approaches.
All right, Brigadier Waqar, I also fail to understand two things, especially the US point of view, let's put it that way, when it comes to Afghanistan and its nefarious activities and the TTP and the Al-Qaeda and the ISIK and so on and so forth, ETIM. Now, the US on the one hand urges the Afghan interim government to ensure that terrorist attacks are not launched from Afghanistan, and this was in a recent statement by Matthew Miller, and who also said that the US continues to urge the Taliban to ensure that terrorist attacks are not launched from the Afghan soil, and says that the Pakistani people have suffered greatly at the hands of violent extremists and terrorists. On the other hand, as you yourself have pointed, the CISS report that comes out that talks about the US withdrawal of more than $17.9 billion as assistance to Afghanistan since the year 2021, since their withdrawal from the Afghan territories. And the CISS report also says that for that reason, there is an increased risk that terrorists and terrorist affiliated individuals and entities may have illegally benefited. Now, when you look at this from a very diverse spectrum, let's put it that way, what do you infer as far as the US intentions in the region or the US intentions in Pakistan are concerned?
Yeah, I think it is unfortunate. As far as my own opinion is concerned, basically after their withdrawal, because you should remember when the Doha office was opened for Taliban, it remained there functional for a couple of years before the final accord. So Doha also houses the U.S. CENTCOM headquarters. So how could these two, entities exist in one city? So it means that, and then if you look at it in, their own, let's say, interaction with Taliban, they actually, even Pakistan was not included, although we had our own channels. And then comes the Doha Agreement, and before that, it means that there was some arrangement between, let's say, U.S. and Taliban that Taliban not going to attack U.S. interests anywhere. So that has been, I think, ensured. Rest is in case, if you look at Eurasia, if you look at U.S. rivalry with China and Russia, so they would like to, I think, definitely scuttle any initiative which helps these two emerging powers. So I feel that probably the same game is being repeated, and it's a cost of some dollars being fed to them. As far as U.S. is concerned, $17 billion peanuts for them. And but the question being raised is that on one side, you're talking of human rights and women's rights. Why are you aiding an ex-enemy or a terrorist entity, or let's say an entity which supports terrorism? So these are very big question marks. So my point is, if you have $7 billion worth of small arms and ammunition lying in Afghanistan, which is good enough for next 20 years for a militia, and then you are getting aid to a tune of $4 billion a year. There are aircraft reports by Sarah Adams says that a jet, flies from Swiss banks and comes to Kabul and delivers $87 million a week, which is $4 billion a year. And if you look at other aids coming for humanitarian assistance, for settling of people who are supposed to go back to, West and the U.S., some of them are stuck up there, some of them are in Pakistan. So it amounts to, I think, maybe more than $20 billion already, let's say, given to Taliban. And they talk of, override and overseeing that this money is not spent for terrorism, but it is happening. So it means that they are going to sustain it. And this has to be now seen by the, I think, hierarchy in Pakistan, what is happening. And maybe you can also look at some alternate, let's say, means to engage Taliban. If Iran is funding them, just to make sure no terrorist attacks. So it's becoming a hired gun. So maybe you can look at some other strategy. But as far as terrorism within Pakistan, I think we'll have to fight it out. So these are some of the very big questions, and these are based on recent leaks and interviews. And Cigar report is an official report. So look at the arrogance that yes, we have fed $17 billion plus to one Taliban, and there we are.
What can we say? Only time will tell how the strategy is going to evolve, and will Afghanistan continue to be a pawn in world geopolitics? Will Pakistan continue to be the victim as far as geopolitical war or conflict between two powers is concerned? That I think only time will tell. But of course, thank you very much, Brigadier Saab, to have joined us, to have given us your eminent point of view as far as Pakistan, Afghanistan and TTP and such terrorist outfits is concerned. That was Brigadier Waqar Hassan Khan, senior analyst, joining us online. Let's come to our second topic, and that concerns militarism, terrorism, and extremism. Rather extremism, let's put it that way, and how all the minorities within India are being deliberately targeted and have been targeted since the last few years by the BJP government since 2014. Even before that, under other governments, this was happening. But since the BJP has, taken power or taken the government or been in power since in these last 10 years, we've only seen more and more atrocities being committed as far as the Muslims are concerned, a total disregard of any other religion, whether it be Islam, whether it be Sikhism, whether it be Christianity, or whether it be even their other castes like Dalits. To discuss more on that, we've been joined by Dr. Asma Khawaja. She is an executive director of the CISS in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, to have joined us. Dr. Saiba, the extremism against Muslims Muslims continues under the Modi rule. Now this is of course his third stint in power. He is no longer in a majority, but that does not stop him from continuing what he has been doing in the last 10 years. I just wanted to give an example of the Raza Jama Masjid in Kohlapur district in Maharashtra, and how it was vandalized and how our Holy Quran was desecrated by people. And I will call them extremist Hindus. Why are such atrocities still going on without any action on the international and on the national front? The world powers that talk about human rights, that talk about dignity, that talk about respect. Where is all of that when it comes to India?
Actually, why it is not controlled by Modi regime? One, because on domestic front, it is the only way to attract Hindu vote bank and the attract Hindu fanatic radical vote bank. So, because there is no, as it was obvious in the electoral campaign of BJP and Congress, that there is no such economic development or economic successes which Modi can sell to the common Indian. So Modi regime is selling the hatred, fanaticism and radicalism to radical Hindu vote bank. And on international fronts, we have seen that there are some there are some reports by international institutions which are highlighting those points. But due to economic and political scenarios, I would call it geopolinomics, international states are unable to take some concrete measures to stop India or to inform India that there would be political repercussions of atrocities against minorities. And it is not only about Muslims, it is about Christians and Christianity as well. It is about Sikhs as well. No such minority is safe, or I would say all minorities, even if it is gender, it is women, if there are Dalits, low caste Hindus, Muslims, Christians, all are brutalized, killed, and harassed and bullied by the majority Hindus, and that is why international media is reporting India as a majoritarian state, a state where only Hindu majority has right to live. I was reading an article, I think today, about that is there any religious freedom in India, because this is what the 10 years of Modi regime have converted India into, a majoritarian Hindu state where all minorities are lesser being, where all minorities are disrespected. We are talking about this incident of burning or destroying a mosque, that too in the holy month of Muharram. And we should not forget that almost all minorities have no right to their religious freedom under Modi regime. We should not forget that even Sikh minority doesn't minorities weddings, marriages, they have been registered under Hindu Act. So even Modi regime is unable to give this basic religious right to Sikh minority. And what happened in Manipur, the way Christians were killed only because of their religion, the way churches were blown up, they were destroyed by Hindu majority, that is unbelievable. So I think, and the way international institution, the Genocide Watch, declared India as a state which is at the brink of genocide. All these things should not be ignored by international communities, because all these are red flags, all these are alarm bells which are trying to wake up international institutions and community to look beyond their geopolitical interests, to look into the lives of vulnerable innocent communities in India. Who can forget Arundhati Roy, like only to be marginalized, or only to be harassed. She was convicted in a case which was registered in 2010. So this is Modi's India, where justice, where equality, where equal rights for minorities are, I would say, even though those topics are not allowed to be discussed in popular media, in large electronic media. There are YouTube videos by individual journalists, and most of them are not living in India only to safeguard their lives. But on popular electronic media, Indian media, those issues cannot even be discussed, and people are afraid of talking about it. Writers are afraid of talking about rights of minorities and brutalities against minority. What do you think that when
Yes, I agree, Dr. Sahiba. Now, Dr. Sahiba, this incident that took place at the Raza Jama Masjid in Kolhapur district, happened just a few moments before one of the Lok Sabha members, Sambhaji Raje, was to arrive in the district. And when it was all happening, we saw that the forces were just standing silently and did nothing and let the people do whatever they want to. Which brings me to a very important question. Do you feel that the Indian politicians, the current Indian politicians, are also compliant in all such incidents? Are they also directly or indirectly involved in such incidents? And do you feel that such incidents are also being used as political tools to garner more votes or more sympathy from the extremist Hindu majority within India?
Yes, definitely the ruling elites, the ruling regime, all their members are part of all these hatred and all those campaigns against minorities, against Muslims, Christians, Dalits, and Sikhs. Definitely, they are part of it, and that. Yes, this campaign is to instigate vote bank. The vote bank, which BJP regime thinks that did not vote for BJP, they are trying to create certain sense of insecurity and raise the temperature against their sentiments, negatively raise the sentiments against the minorities, especially Muslims, Christians, and other minorities. How can we forget that their MLA, famous former or current film actress, she called Sikhs, the whole community of Sikhs, as terrorists. So this is what is being encouraged, supported, facilitated, orchestrated by BJP allies and BJP members of parliament. So there is no doubt about it. How can we forget the what happened in Manipur? How can we forget the Muslim genocide of Gujarat? How can we ignore the mob lynching of Dalits because they because of and all those events of mob lynching, they happened for negligible mistakes. Even we cannot use the word crime for those mistakes, but they mercilessly been killed without any rumors, without any sympathy for the minority community, unfortunately. And I would say that when we see that the economic situation of India, economy of India, the way India is trying to attract international investor, but those Indian policy makers, decision makers, they have to think that in a socially vulnerable, fragile, polarized India, where people are divided on the basis of caste, religion, race, the color of their skin, how any international investor would come and invest to boost Indian economy or economic model? Only merely population cannot be a strength of any countries until or unless that country provides exclusive, conducive environment for economic growth, or I would say for social growth. Look at the situation of Indian fabric right now. There are several movements have been started. What do you think? That no Muslim minister, what does it mean? And then the way Indians are talking about the highest ever unemployment ratio in India right now. So these are the actual issues where which Modi regime wants to divert the attention of common public from these real issues, and I would say detract them to the non-issues which are hatred towards other minorities, especially minorities. And then Modi is constitutionalizing that discrimination. Modi regime has constitutionalized those discrimination where minorities are known or have been registered as the lesser being. Their rights, their right, even they have not been given right to live in majoritarian India under Modi. So these are really important issues which international community should not forget. They should focus on that. They should remember that an unstable India would be a danger for the whole world. It would cost the strategic stability across the continents. So an
Dr. Saiba,
unstable,
the fact is,
fragile,
Dr. Saiba, the
polarized
fact
India.
is, yes, the fact is, Dr. Saiba, does India care whether it becomes unstable or whether the world becomes unstable as a result of what it is perpetuating within its territory and how it's endangering the countries around it, especially Pakistan? Is its focus really on Hindutva? Is Hindutva just its, the main agenda as far as the BJP government is concerned, or will it ever think of the rights of people that are part of India, all those minorities that are part of India? When you look at what is happening against the Naxalites, when you also look what is happening in other parts like Nagaland as well, you have the famous incident of 2021 of Nagaland, and the Supreme Court has just now taken a swift action as far as the Nagaland issue is concerned. If all of this continues, do you feel that all these movements that have been going on within India that are asking for independence of their territories will only gain strength? Doesn't India realize the repercussion of what it is doing is going to result in its own implosion?
Uh, Here, I would like to mention that when you ask that how a federation, a country which is heterogeneous, which is multicultural, how to keep that country intact and how to maintain nationalism in that country, the answer is only inclusive government for everyone living in that country. But right now when we see Modi's policies, apparently Modi is only focusing on or trying to appease radical Hindu vote bank, because somewhere he has misunderstood his defeat of his party in these elections. And because of that, unexpected for him, we were expecting it, but it was an unexpected for Mr. Modi, the way BJP is unable to perform both when they were in government and in elections. That is unacceptable for Mr. Modi, and that is tarnishing his desire or his dream to emerge as the god of Indian politics. So that
I
right now, Modi is not thinking, or Modi is not analyzing things in the larger framework, but only from the prism of gaining more and more Hindu vote bank. So we also know that justice delayed is justice
just denied.
denied. So Modi, what happened in Nagaland, what would happen ever in Manipur or in Kashmir, we have seen that Modi has accelerated the aggressive, violent campaign in occupied Kashmir. So this all shows or reflects that Modi haven't learned anything from the past or from the mistakes of his regime, and rather than they are focusing on repeating the same mistakes. But the optimistic side is that right now opposition is not toothless in India. In Indian parliament, the opposition parties are in considerable number with very good vocal politicians, I would say. And we have seen the way Asaduddin Siddiqui, the way other Congress members, they have spoken about the reality or in India, and for me it is unbelievable the way Mr. Rahul Gandhi, the leader of largest opposition party Congress, was trolled for his speech in parliament, that why he quoted from Islam to support in order to support his argument. He quoted a quotation from Quran, and he was trolled by BJP and their voters or their campaigners, only because. And if this is the trend in India, in this federation where Muslims, Hindus, and different caste and different provinces, they develop, they make a larger nation. How, what BJP is actually thinking, on what ground they would keep that country together and build a nationalism? Because Congress utilized secularism and to some extent inclusive public policy making to keep the country united, keep the nationalism alive. So, and but when different communities, ethnic and religious group would feel or would be perceived as the other beings, and those groups would feel that they are not stakeholders in the existence of the larger state India. What do you think, that what future any sane person with a bit of rationality can see for India in this scenario? Definitely, the situation is bleak, and I would say that when a country is polarized, especially federation is polarized, the process of diluting of nationalism is slow, but it is gradual and it is sustainable. Because revolutions, they don't occur in that scenario. Evolution. So I, unfortunately, right now, Mr. Modi, only for his political short-term gains, is dealing with India in a way which is in the long term would not be good for Indian nationalism and would
And will
make
not be even good for India,
minorities.
Dr. Asma Shakir Khaja. I think whatever is happening, whatever has been happening in India since 2014 is not going in India's favor, whether it be nationally, internally or externally. The same India could have extremely good relations with its neighbors, including Pakistan. The same India could, harbor good intentions for its minorities, where this could pave to be a country where the minorities could live in harmony and get all the same benefits as the majority Hindus. But unfortunately, this is not the case, and I don't think this is going to be the case in the coming days as well. I hope the BJP comes to realize this now that it is not in a majority. I also hope that the Congress and its affiliated parties that form India will also be able to do the needful in order to change this current mechanism that is evolving for the worse as far as India is concerned. Thank you very much, Dr. Asma Shakir Khaja Sahiba, to have joined us. Let's come to our last three stories rather very quickly. Most cities are going to be 5 to 6 degrees Celsius warmer by the year 2080. This has been confirmed by a web app that has been created by a professor at the University of Maryland in the United States. It predicts the future climate of cities that would be about 6 decades later, and does not paint a good picture, whether it be Pakistan, whether it be other countries. We all know the major reason for that, and that is climate change. And the fact is also that despite different pledges that are being made from countries across the world, not the necessary rather is being done by those very countries as far as action is taken. And that is the reason why it is being predicted that the temperatures of most of the cities across the world is going to be increased by the year 2080. Next, we will go to Japanese scientists that have made a robot face smile, but with the help of livingskin. To a lot it might seem very eerie, but this is what has taken place, and this is being touted as the next step as far as cosmetology or other such avenues is concerned, and how robots can be made to smile with human skin could maybe lead to other such important results or other such important discoveries in the future using human skin and robots as well. Human technology has no frontier, so as to say. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, as far as the television series is concerned, the most important avenue for that across the world, especially from the West, is the Emmy Awards that are going to be held in September. But the nominations have come out, and the largest number of nominations have been given to The Bear as well as Shogun, and there are others as well, which include The Crown, which include The Morning Show, and others. All the different OTT platforms also have been included in these Emmy Awards as well, and there's a lot of healthy competition as far as drama and comedy is concerned, but the main chunk of the awards, the nominations, has been taken by The Bear and Shogun. Let's see what happens. We'll of course update you on September when these awards are actually announced. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories and segments that pertain to us in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.